Welcome back to Midori Neko Media. My name is James, and this is part 3 of the complete history of Deadpool. Last time, we took a look at Deadpool's original miniseries published in 1993, and today we will be taking a look at his second miniseries, published just 1 year later in 1994. Obviously, the original miniseries sold well enough that Marvel decided to commission a second series. According to Comicron, the first issue of Deadpool's 1993 miniseries came in at about number 134 in terms of comic sales to comic book shops. So it's not like the series set the world on fire or anything like that. However, this is still in the age of comic book collecting for people trying to make an investment. So in the early 90s, a lot of people cottoned on to the fact that old comic books were worth a lot of money, and publishers really went out of their way to try and sell and market their books to customers who would try to buy comic books as an investment. Obviously, the problem was that once everyone started buying bulk amounts of comic books as an investment, they had no value. The reason other comic books had accrued value over the years is because of their scarcity. Hardly anyone kept their comic books back in the golden age, and people who did, probably didn't keep them in great condition because no one thought they would be worth anything in the future. So in the mid-90s, there was this big comic book crash. That had not happened yet, so even placing at number 134, the first issue of the Deadpool miniseries probably was doing decent numbers. You also have a lot of other characters at the time who were sort of darker, grittier, edgier in that 90s mold. Deadpool was created by Rob Liefeld. Other Rob Liefeld characters were very popular at the time, and his contemporaries such as Todd McFarlane created Spawn. Spawn was super popular at the time. In 1994, I think you had other characters like Max and Pitt, who had this sort of edgy 90s grim dark feeling. And although Deadpool doesn't, perfectly fit into that mold, for a Marvel character, he is on the darker, more violent side. So it definitely makes sense that Marvel wanted to pursue this character and try to get him more popular. In the first Deadpool miniseries, we saw Deadpool and Vanessa, his ex-girlfriend, trying to track down a supposed ultimate weapon, and at the end of the story, we saw Vanessa being wounded gravely on the verge of death, and Deadpool allows her to copy his powers so that she can regenerate herself. So, does that mean that Deadpool is not a complete asshole? Well, that's something that we can take a look at. Today, we're checking out Deadpool, Sins of the Past. Okay, so let's jump into Deadpool Sins of the Past. This is volume 3 of the All Killer No Filler Deadpool collection, and the first story in this collection actually is not Sins of the Past. We are kicking off with this Secret Defenders story featuring Deadpool, Luke Cage, and Dr. Druid. In this story, Deadpool is basically just a supporting character. He doesn't do anything particularly important. There's nothing really relevant to Deadpool's overall character arc here, so we can mostly skip over this. Deadpool is basically employed to help out with a supernatural threat. Dr. Druid, Luke Cage, and Deadpool are going against some typical supernatural force trying to destroy the world. They face Cadaver, the sort of zombie guy, and we do get some fun artwork on the cover of Deadpool holding ridiculously large guns. Well, this one looks more like a movie projector, but there is nothing particularly of note here, so we're just gonna basically skip over that and move straight into Deadpool sins of the past from Deadpool's second mini-series. So this series has a brand new creative team for Deadpool. The writer is Mark Waid, and the illustrator is Ian Churchill. Mark Waid actually said that he probably wouldn't have accepted this job if he'd known what an asshole Deadpool is. But I guess, Deadpool was not a super famous character yet. Maybe Mark didn't know what he was getting himself in for. And this is the first time that Ian Churchill illustrated Deadpool, and it's a pretty cool take. The cover here we can see actually is a little bit different for Deadpool. I mean, Rob Liefeld originally drew Deadpool and, lots of other 90s characters with tons of pouches. We get the pouches here, but they are crazy big. And then we also get the buckle here, which is also really big. And Deadpool usually has katanas, but in this case, it looks more like, I guess, like a rapier or a fencing sword. So a little bit of a different look, but Deadpool does look pretty badass here. So, moving on to the story. The story kicks off with Black Tom Cassidy. So, previously Deadpool had, been fighting Black Tom and Juggernaut. In the previous episode, we looked at how he basically threw them out of an airplane in midair. And in this story, Tom is suffering from some sort of viral condition, basically turning his body into wood. So yes, Black Tom Cassidy is suffering from a case of wood. He has too much wood. And the authorities have contacted this guy, Dr. Kilbrew, to help cure him. And Dr. Kilbrew is an important figure in Deadpool's history because he is the person who was basically responsible for trying to get the latent mutant powers of people to activate in the Weapon X project. So he is essentially the guy who was torturing Wade Wilson and other people, trying to get them to turn into mutants, and he is gonna, have an important role in Deadpool. He has a lot of exposition here. Basically, he's saying that he can cure Black Tom Cassidy, but before he can do anything, enter the Juggernaut, smashing through the wall in his typical fashion. He doesn't know what a door is. He just smashes in, grabs Tom, and Tom says, "Bring the doctor because he can cure me." And we can see that Dr. Kilbrew is carrying a file of Wade Wilson, so obviously he is gonna play a part in Tom's cure. And now we get to Deadpool himself, who is drinking his troubles away in a bar. And this is one of the first times that we see Deadpool's face full on. Previously we have had some glimpses, but here it is full on. A lot of different artists do portray Deadpool differently. In this case, it's pretty gross looking. It's like a half-cooked hamburger that's been smashed with a hammer. Yeah, the lady he's with understandably is horrified. So, in typical comic book fashion, the scene is interrupted by a huge explosion, and this group of mercenaries is trying to take down Deadpool. They are trying to take Deadpool alive, so they freeze him. Fortunately, he is saved by Banshee, and they seem to know each other. Deadpool, Banshee. They take out the mercenaries, and then Banshee says that they'll let one of them go because then he will take them to their leader. But unfortunately, his daughter, Siren, incapacitates that guy. She didn't know the plan. Bit more exposition. Basically, Siren and Banshee are trying to track down Black Tom Cassidy, but they don't know why Tom's men are targeting Deadpool, Deadpool says, well, hey, I rumbled with those guys before. He's just out for revenge. They're not really sure about it. But Deadpool wants to find out. Banshee disagrees, and Deadpool says, you owe me, Irish. Remember the Farouk affair? So, we get a bit of history being weaved in here. Deadpool's still a relatively new character in the Marvel Universe, so it makes sense that they are trying to sort of put him in the backstory of certain other characters, so he has a bit more of a presence within the Marvel Universe. We've seen this before with characters like Silver Sable. They seem to know Deadpool, although he has never actually interacted with them in the comics before. Anyway, there is one more mercenary that they didn't get. He tries to attack Siren, but Deadpool stops him. And Deadpool seems to be pretty smitten with Siren. He takes out the mercenary, but not before he gets his hand cut off. It's not very clearly shown. I guess, Marvel, although comic books were getting a bit more violent and gory in the 90s, Marvel was still relatively strict about those sort of things, so we don't get to see any severed hands. But basically, this mercenary cuts off Deadpool's hand. And, Deadpool, he's got a crush going on with Siren, and he's like, don't worry, my hand's just gonna heal back. I've got a healing factor, no problem. It's one of Deadpool's famous traits, he can withstand any injury. But that's not what seems to be happening here, and he passes out. So clearly there is something wrong with Deadpool's healing factor. Cover of issue number 2, we get the Juggernaut. Pretty cool, he's looking nice and aggressive. We have Deadpool reflected in the helmet. So, as Deadpool previously mentioned, the Farouk affair, this is basically the Farouk affair. This is back when Banshee was working for Interpol. He's with this other guy, Peyer, and they have been tasked with infiltrating this house and arresting this guy. Unfortunately, Deadpool gets there first and assassinates him before they can arrest him. However, in the process, he does save Banshee's life. So Banshee is, somewhat grateful to Deadpool for saving his life, but Peyer has a bit of a chip on his shoulder because he was hoping to get a promotion out of this, and it turns out that the botched job actually ruins his career. And Banshee actually goes to ask Peyer to help him track down Black Tom, because since they don't have any leads to his whereabouts, he thinks that Peyer, for some reason, may know where Black Tom is. And of course, just look at him. He looks like an extremely trustworthy person, and I'm sure that he has no bad plans whatsoever. He's not going to mess things up. Definitely not. Deadpool wakes up and Siren is still with him, and his hand does regenerate, but it seems to be causing him a lot of pain, and it's slower than usual. Unbeknownst to them, one of Black Tom's men is spying on them, and Tom is pretty angry because although he hates Banshee, he still does, care for Siren. He doesn't want her to get injured, so he demands that his men do not try to take any lethal action while she is in the fray. Juggernaut says, well, I'm gonna go get Deadpool myself. So, the mercenaries are still trying to track down Deadpool, and they're fending them off when in comes the Juggernaut. And Juggernaut and Deadpool have a huge fight leading them into a knife factory, which results with Deadpool pouring molten steel all over Juggernaut, but of course nothing can stop the Juggernaut. And here comes Peya. Like I said, definitely he doesn't have any evil plans. Nope, he's here for revenge against Deadpool. Issue number 3. Peya seems to have the drop on Deadpool, but in comes the Juggernaut to mess things up. Deadpool manages to get away from Juggernaut with the help of Siren. And one of his men returns with Deadpool's severed hand. So, for some reason, the regenerative powers that Deadpool has, Killbrew thinks that they can be used to heal Tom. Meanwhile, Banshee finally finds out that, Peya has maybe double-crossed him, and he's up to no good. Very sharp Banshee. Once again, Peya gets the drop on Deadpool and Siren. Deadpool takes some bullets, and his healing factor, it's still not doing so well. But he still manages to give Peya a crack to the mouth. A wham to the mouth. But Deadpool ain't doing so good. He doesn't think that he is going to go track down Black Tom because his healing factor is not working properly. But, he does have this little crush on Siren. He tells her his real name and decides to go with her and Banshee to track down Black Tom. Meanwhile, Black Tom has attached Deadpool's hand to his own body, and according to medical science, of course, this will heal you from whatever ails you. Issue number 4, we get this nice picture of Black Tom, like a sort of, half man, half thorny tree, fiery-eyed maniac. So, Deadpool, Banshee, and Siren are tracking down Black Tom. Of course, we have to have a page turned to the side for no particular reason. They infiltrate Tom's secret lair, and Deadpool discovers Killbrew, and he is not happy because, Killbrew is the guy that basically turned Wade Wilson into Deadpool, and the method was not pleasant. There's nothing more that Deadpool would like to do than kill Killbrew. But for the moment, they have the more pressing issue of taking care of Black Tom. Peya also gets in on the act, and in a huge, typical comic book fight, Deadpool's mask comes off. So we see Deadpool's face again here. It looks a little bit different. I think this page is Ian Churchill. Another artist has done some fill-ins here, so the style is a little bit different. But it is still looking pretty gross. And, earlier in the story, we saw Deadpool reveal his face to the lady in the bar just to freak her out. But this time it's Wade who is totally freaking out. He's going after his mask. He is terrified that Siren is going to see him with, his face all messed up. Siren catches up to him. Gasp! But then apologizes, and Deadpool says, "You're very kind." Deadpool has this extremely deep emotional damage, and he actually likes Siren. He's, pretty terrified that if she sees his face like that, she will just totally reject him. And he has the. It's not exactly explained in this issue, but he has these deep feelings of guilt and shame connected with his past. Fortunately, Siren is a very, very kind-hearted person, and Deadpool's back. Let's go rock the house down. Cue another huge comic book fight, taking down Black Tom, and in the end, basically, they secure Black Tom, and Deadpool takes off with Killbrew. He knows that his healing factor is not working properly, so he wants Killbrew to fix him up, essentially. Now, this is a thread which actually isn't going to be picked up for a little while, so it doesn't continue in the next volume. But we do have this sort of dangling thread that Deadpool's healing factor is not working properly, and that maybe Killbrew is the only person that can help him. Finally, we do get an issue of Wolverine. And in this one, Deadpool is very much the villain. Wolverine's healing factor in this story has been sort of acting up. That doesn't really seem to be an issue for Deadpool here, but basically Wolverine is going to check up on Kane, who you may remember from the last episode. He is also a product of the Weapon X program, and when Wolverine goes to check in on Kane, he's met with Deadpool, and it's just a pretty silly story. Basically, Deadpool is trying to track down Vanessa, Copycat, his ex, and she is dating Kane, and he is really super pissed about it for some reason, even though he dumped her. And Wolverine and Deadpool, it's a good excuse for them to just have a bit of a fight. For some reason, Copycat and Kane have become actors. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be professional or amateur, but they are in a downtown theater working on a scene. Anyway, after a fight, Wolverine is somewhat incapacitated, and Deadpool goes to the theater. He basically says he's going to kill them, and he throws a sword. One sword he throws at Vanessa's heart, and the other he throws at Kane's head, and he says, you have to choose. You can save yourself or you can save Vanessa. This is a sort of weird comic book logic that would make absolutely no sense in real life, but there it is, there's the choice. And, Kane saves himself, and Wolverine manages to get in and save Vanessa. And Deadpool just casually tosses a grenade and escapes. The story ends with Wolverine basically saying that if Kane hadn't saved himself, then he couldn't have tried to save Vanessa. So he did the right thing. okay, whatever. It's a totally unrealistic situation anyway. So earlier we said, maybe Deadpool is not a total asshole because, he saved Vanessa. But for this particular story, Deadpool proves himself to be a, very, very big asshole. Trying to murder his ex-girlfriend. Back in the very first episode, he did seem to take a lot of pleasure in beating her up when she was disguised as Domino. So he definitely has some complex issues with, well, if not women generally, then at least with copycat Vanessa. Okay, so final thoughts on Deadpool Sins of the Past. The first story in this volume with Dr. Druid, as I said, for me, not interesting at all. It's totally skippable. It was, quite frankly, a chore to read. It's not my sort of thing. Going into Sins of the Past, now that's a lot more fun. We have some really cool artwork by Ian Churchill doing some quite, big muscular Deadpool images. He seems to have a thing for buckles, lots of huge buckles like you can see on the cover here. But his art style looks really cool. In terms of the story, it's interesting to see these glimpses into Deadpool's past. So previously we had seen a little bit of Deadpool's face, but really just like the back of his head. So in this series we actually get the full view of his face looking pretty gross, and we get some insight into the shame that Deadpool feels, and how he was experimented on by Dr. Kilbrew, and he is a very jokey, silly character at times, but you get this glimpse into a much deeper and darker psychology. He has probably what people might describe as being like a survivor's guilt or survivor's syndrome combined with, his feelings of hate and disgust towards himself. But you also get that tempered with his attraction to Siren, which is sort of cute. He, simultaneously has a crush on her, but also, recognizes that she probably would have no interest in him, and he probably doesn't even feel that he's good enough for her, which is something he actually said to Vanessa previously in the previous mini-series. So we do get nice insight into some more of the psychology of Deadpool. We also get the second story, which at the beginning of this episode I said, is Deadpool maybe not a complete asshole? Well, in this final story with Wolverine, he proves himself to be an even bigger asshole than we thought. He's trying to kill Vanessa for the crime of moving on with her life and dating someone else. Even though he has been crushing on Siren previously, he's not too happy about Vanessa hooking up with Kane. That is probably Deadpool in one of his least likable moments. I guess it's a Wolverine story essentially, so it maybe makes sense to portray Deadpool more as a villain. But it is very, very cool to see Deadpool and Wolverine scrapping for the first time. Previously, in this story, Sins of the Past, Deadpool's healing factor is not really working well. And then in Wolverine's story, Wolverine's healing factor is not really all it should be. So this fight is not like it's not Deadpool and Wolverine coming together and scrapping while they're both at their peak. That's yet to come, but it is very cool, and there's some nice Cubit artwork in there as well, which is, it's good to see a variety of different styles. We've had, the original art by Rob Liefeld, and then we had Greg Capullo, and we've had Ian Churchill here. So, you know, there's a lot of popular and great illustrators who have worked on Deadpool up to this point, and of course there's going to be tons more in the future as well. So, all in all, this is a very entertaining story. Sins of the Past, very cool to see Deadpool fighting Juggernaut, Black Tom, doing some crazy stuff, fighting with Wolverine later. First story with Dr. Druid, just whatever, totally skippable, but this is a fun volume to pick up, and I believe all of these stories are available collected in the first Epic collection. So if you're collecting the Epic collections, just go with number 1, and I think it goes up to this volume of the All Killer No Filler Deadpool collection. So that's going to do it for this video. Give us a like if you like this video, give us a dislike if you don't like it. Please subscribe if you fancy seeing more videos. We're going to be trying to release a new one every week. And leave any comments down below. What did you think of this story? Who was your favorite Deadpool illustrator up to this point? Next time, in part 4 of the complete history of Deadpool, we will be taking a look at Deadpool Misalliances, which is the sort of interim period between Deadpool having his second miniseries that we just talked about, and then later getting his own ongoing series. So we will be talking about his ongoing series in part 5. Next time, part 4, we will be talking about Misalliances. Stay tuned for that next week. Check it out. We'll see you then. Cheers.